Hello, hello. I'm joined by Emily today. She's just going to talk to us a little bit about her experience working in the industry, how she got into what she does, and we're probably going to talk about a few gender issues within the industry as well, just see where it takes us. So, hi Emily.
Hello. Hi. How goes it?
Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Emily, obviously. I would describe, I guess, myself as like a sound designer, musician, engineer, master's student. I've kind of like had my fingers in all the pies. So it were just to get to the point. At the minute, I'm a master's student studying interactive sound design is the way I explain it to people. The proper title is Sound and Music for Interactive Games. But we don't just stick to video games. It's like we've done stuff about like sound art and stuff. So I don't think the title kind of explains everything. So interactive sound design makes more sense to people.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing at the minute.
Amazing. So you're in Leeds, yeah?
Yes, sorry. Leeds Beckett. Woo!
Woo! I think I remember like looking up the course and it did look really good.
Yeah, like I kind of had expectations, but it seems to have, obviously with COVID, everything's like online now and everything.
Yeah,
but even then the contact and everything has been brilliant, but the course itself, like I have learned so much. Like I'm doing part-time, so it's spread over 2 years. My first year I learned so many different pieces of software, some of which I'd never heard of before, but now I'm like, woo. I'm good at it now.
That's awesome. That's exactly what you want out of a master's, isn't it?
Yeah, like I'm paying all this money. I want to get employable.
Yeah.
Because that was my issue. I did my undergrad and then tried to do the kind of freelance stuff and wasn't really getting anywhere. And I've always kind of been interested in video game sound, and the jobs were like, oh, can you use Wise, Fmod, Unreal? No. And I had bought the books, and it's one of those that you're reading it and you're trying to do it, but you don't understand why you're doing it.
Yeah.
But then obviously this has been like, this is what you're doing and this is why that happens. Like,
yeah, you just need that bridge in between, don't you? Because like self-taught is great, but you are sometimes going to miss out on some fundamentals that somebody with a lot of experience will know about and be able to tell you about.
Yeah. And like this has been, I'm kind of, it's weird because obviously I'm 26, I'm not that old, but like I'm older than a lot of people on the course, because the kind of trajectory is you do undergrad and then you either go straight on to your master's or you have a year out.
Yeah.
Whereas I had 4 years out, I can't remember now, and then came back. So I've kind of had this experience, not only with like editing and stuff, but also about like how brutal it is to try and get your foot in the door with no experience.
No, that's exactly, like I had a similar thing because I started undergrad a little bit later, so I was a little bit older then anyway, and then I took some time out before my master's. But I think on my course we've got a bit of a mix of people who've gone straight from the undergrad and quite a few people have come back, so it's not like I'm not the oldest one there, which is great.
I mean, I'm nowhere near the oldest one there.
Oh, excellent. Good.
I'm not. It's just I was like...
There's just something about that, isn't it?
Yeah, you're speaking to people and they're like, oh yeah, it's my 22nd tomorrow. And I'm like,
I remember 22.
Yeah. It's all downhill.
22 was a good birthday for me, actually.
It's like 22, 23. It's when I hit 24, I was like, I should be doing things.
Yeah. Yeah, I was still in uni at 22, so it was okay. I was like, do you know what? I'm working towards something. It's fine. But then, yeah,
well, that's where I'm at now. I'm like, doesn't matter, I'm 27. Doesn't matter.
It's fine. It's fine. It's like, I'm doing my master's. That's something.
Yeah. We automatically got extensions, but we haven't had an assignment kind of doled out yet for this year. It's all a lot of research and reading, and which I'm finding interesting, but it's also like I need to find like a research question and a project, and I'm reading to obviously get ideas.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, I'm obviously not wasting time reading, but I feel like I'm
it feels like
reading.
Yeah.
So watching Naomi try and do a full-time master's And
she did a
whole
science one?
neuroscience. So she was trying to do a neuroscience master's with equipment that didn't work at the uni.
Oh no.
While holding down a bar job. And yeah, so watching her do that, I was like, nope. I don't have the mental capacity to kind of do a grad. I barely kind of managed to hold it together through that. Never mind trying to live on my own, like try and find a job on top of a full-time thing. And then watching, obviously, because I started in January last year.
Yeah.
It's like a late starter kind of thing. But there were 4 people that started in January. Me and Ryan were part-timers, so we're still on the course. And there was Sarah and Kathy, who they were full-time, but they've gone to Indiana and Dublin. Back home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But we would like have classes together, and hearing them being like, oh my God, I've got 3 assignments due, 2 are due on the same day and I haven't even started. And I'm just like, oh my God, we have 2 assignments due over the next few weeks and I'm stressing. Like, I couldn't do it. So kudos to you.
I mean, yeah, I've had a similar, like, that's what my deadlines have been like a little bit of. I mean, they've been kind enough to kind of be like 1 week after the other rather than like all the same week. But still, well, not like you're expected to do more, basically. And it's
you're expected to do more with less supervision.
Yeah, and like less time, really, because a lot of master's students are also working. Like, I'm not, because I couldn't. But
yeah,
I can't imagine the people who are actually working quite a bit. Like, there are people on my course who are like also lecturers and running a business. I'm like, how are they doing this at the same time?
What?
Some people are, Emily, some people are organised, apparently. Not us.
Don't
Not
know.
us.
Those people, like, especially at work with, like, there's been, like, there's been new staff over the weekend.
Live
Sorry, Sam's just come in.
Hi, Sam. I literally live on Post-its. Hey, girl.
Oh, yeah. She can't hear you because to turn the speakers down.
I know, it's a courtesy, hello.
Yeah, I've got 2, but I've started, 3, 4, 5. But I've started taping them to things because
I've got
my notes.
I've got one that's like things I'm doing this week, and another one that's things I'm doing this week. I've got one that's
this is just like fan chat. Do this. Do sound design. Here's a new phone number.
Yeah, literally. I think I was just going to ask how you got into sound design.
Oh, so sound design specifically, I had a module at college, and it was to replace the sounds from, WALL-E.
Yeah.
The film. Well, you know the little side film, Bernie?
I don't know if I've seen that, actually.
It was like a special short on the DVD, but we basically just had to replace the sound.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
For that. And I'd never done anything like that before, and obviously the first attempt it was rubbish, but like I just really liked kind of put in sounds to details, and then obviously it's painstaking over however many weeks you do it, but then you're watching it all like
I did that. Yeah. And it's like Foley a little bit. Is that the same thing?
Foley is an element of it. So Foley is specifically kind of like live action sound replacement, I guess. It is sound design in the sense that like for wind they're dragging bags down a carpet or something like that.
I love seeing like behind the scenes stuff of Foley. It's always really interesting.
Well, when I spent a week at Pinewood Studios, I went over for a couple of days to the Shepperton building, which is where I met Pete Burgess and Nick, I forget his name, but I was obsessed with this Pete Burgess guy. He was the Foley artist, and he was just so cool. He was basically walking me through exactly what they did, and it looks like if you were to get a small cinema, rip out all the seats, still have the screen, but where the seats were, you'd have pits with like grass or water or whatever, and there was like props everywhere, and they'd get I don't know what they were filming, but I technically shouldn't have been there. Like, they let me watch them do these things. It was great. And there was a scene where a woman was running away from something, she fell, and then she gets back up. And literally, he gets shown, he's like, yeah, okay, play the clip. And he's watching it, gets shown it once. And then he's like, yeah, all right, let's record. And just perfectly, he got all the steps, he got the fall really well. And I just said to it, I was like, how do you get it so spot on every time? Like, you only watch that once. And he was like, it's just practice. Like, apparently he used to go around all the theatres or studios and really annoy people and be like, please let me in your studio. So he kind of like amped me up. He was like, no, like, he said that I fit into the team, but there were no jobs going or anything.
That's still good though, because you never know. Like in the future, you might be like, do you remember that Emily that we met?
Well, that would be amazing, because I've got all of them on Twitter. I used to message them a lot, and I check, well, now I'm on the message, I don't do it so much, but I used to check the Pinewood thing all the time, just to be like, the job. Even if I'm just making tea over at Shepperton, I just want to be around these people.
Yeah. Well, it's good to stay on their radar as well, and keep them on your radar.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, but I think you kind of answered. So was that Pinewood trip when you were on undergrad? Was that part of
No, this was when I was this was when I was trying to do the freelance stuff, and it wasn't like, I literally wasn't getting anywhere. So I just I think I'd emailed them, or I'd applied for jobs beforehand and obviously didn't get anything. So I just emailed them being like, look, I've applied for jobs, blah, blah, blah. I've got no experience. I really want to get into this. This is me. Do you have any kind of like internship or like work experience thing I can do? Like, I just want to come and like chat to people. And they actually replied and was like, oh yeah, we do a work experience thing. Fill out this form and we'll get back to you.
That's good that you took the initiative to do that.
Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that, to be honest. I'd emailed, there's a sound designer called Emily, and I forget her last name because obviously.
Because it's not your last name.
Yeah. Well, no, because Emily is easy to remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she's an Australian sound designer, and in college I emailed her being like, oh, like, you're great. I'm also called Emily. Can you give me some tips? And she actually replied, and I used the interview questions I asked her for an essay in college. So I've kind of been, emailing randomers since doing that module, really, just trying to get into it and stuff, because I didn't know this entire realm of sound existed. I just kind of, it's music. Yeah. I don't know what I thought, to be honest.
Well, that's it, actually. I had this discussion with somebody else a little while ago. They were doing a podcast about music education. And I remember, like, we talked about how there isn't really enough awareness about what different roles there are in the music industry. You kind of think it's like, you could be a sound engineer or you can be a musician. And, it's like that the musician sort of thing is framed as like, well, if you're not famous, like, you're not necessarily a successful musician. And that's not the case. You could be like doing all sorts of stuff as a musician.
Yeah. In college and undergrad, we were told about the different avenues, in the sense that you can be a session musician, you can write music for video games. I knew that was a thing. And I just assumed, I guess, that composers or, game music people were responsible for the sounds as well. I guess I don't really know what I thought. Doing that module at college was definitely like an eye-opener. I was like, oh, I really like this. And then since then, I've kind of taken the found sounds thing and, did the whole music thing where I do popular music tracks and replace all the instruments with objects.
No, I love
which
that.
is really fun.
I think that's the sort of thing as well where you could get like a good following out of that. Just
the only thing
so
is it's this little thing in the back of my mind where it's like, what's original about this? Sounds like so many people do it. But going back onto Pete Burgess, I mentioned, like, I did, I've done these tracks, blah, 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 and I showed him them. And he was like, oh my God, I've been telling whoever that we should start doing some of this, And I was like, oh. But obviously I haven't, nothing's happened. That would be...
No, but still, like, you made a man with a lot of experience in the industry go, ooh, we should do that.
See,
And that's
dream job at the minute would be, you know, at Pinewood, but I'm kind of sick of Britain at the minute.
Well, yeah, who isn't? So I was going to ask you what the gender balance is like, both on your course and your job, because you work in music equipment hiring. I don't know what the official.
I mean, the official title makes me sound like just an attendant, I guess. It's premises attendant is what I'm called.
Oh, that does kind of undermine what the knowledge you need, doesn't it?
Yeah, so, well, when I started, a girl also started with me on the weekends, and neither of us knew what the job was. Like, the first thing I said to Rebecca on my first day was kind of stupid. Rebecca's my supervisor.
Yeah.
Kind of stupid question, but what is this job? And she just looks at me, and I was like, because I thought it was like room setups, equipment setups, which it totally is. But the girl who also started with me thought it was a cleaning job. So I was like telling her all about her cost training and like, oh yes, you know, you keep such and such away from that, you mop in this way. And he's like, oh, it's brilliant that you know that, but we have cleaners. So it is, but yeah, it is setting up rooms for the next day or whatever you've got on that day, depacking. It is loaning out instruments and equipment and stuff to students, and it is as well, like, for example, if a door lock breaks, that's also our responsibility. So we are a premises attendant in the sense that we fix things and whatever,
but then you've got the added
job.
You've got then the added thing of needing to know a little bit about the equipment as well.
Yeah, although we're basically glorified cleaners at this point. Thanks, COVID.
I feel like that's a little bit of a failure on like the advertisement of the job. If you guys didn't know what you were doing.
No, definitely, because I thought I was being stupid, but then Jess was like, "Oh no, I was talking about Kosh and stuff." She's left now, like, to do a PhD in London.
Oh, damn.
And we have a new girl that she got hired before lockdown. And then lockdown happened, we weren't in, and then she's come back into the job, and it's nothing like how it was. The uni is basically dead, and we're just cleaning everything all the time. And I'm like, I feel so sorry for you, you know, it wasn't always like this. It was fun.
Like, at least it's like, I guess it's like kind of a low stakes, not low stakes, but like low effort. You don't need to think too much about it at the moment. But then it also means like you're not getting the experience that you're expecting to get from it as well.
No, and I'm not a fan of sitting down and doing nothing, especially because like the early mornings and stuff, like it's 8 till 6 basically, and I'm not used to getting up in the morning through the week and stuff. So sitting there and doing nothing, exactly. I'm literally, there have been times where I'm just like, I got sent home last week because I was up until 3 with Sam. By accident, we were playing video games.
Oh yeah, of course.
Up until 3 with Sam, and then I got up at 7:30. No, would have been earlier because I was in at 8. But basically, I had like 3-4 hours sleep and was literally at the desk falling asleep. So that's when I was like, I can't do this, like give me something to do. But luckily my supervisor was nice, and he was like, there's literally nothing to do, it's going to be dead, so if you're actually dying at 12 when Katerina comes in, you can go home. I was like, thank you, Mark. Obviously I felt like a lemon.
No, but like I think a lot of people have had problems with their sleep pattern at the moment because everybody's schedule is completely out of whack. I've always, obviously, I'm a night owl anyway, but like in lockdown, my sleep was ridiculous. And part of that was like staying up and doing work, but another part of it was just like, I'm not going out and doing the usual things that make me tired enough to go to bed at semi-sensible time. So like that's why I started having to like try and do some exercise just so I had something that my body was doing to be like, I guess we've done something today. Because when you're sitting at a computer all day, and it's not usually what you do, your body's like, oh, we haven't done anything. It's like, my brain's like, yes, we have. Excuse you.
I know what you mean. Because like with lockdown, when like work was shut and everything. I didn't touch my bike for 6 months because I wasn't going out, and when I was going out, it was just for walks. Like,
yeah,
there's no
exactly.
cycling.
I don't really like going for a walk without a purpose, so I haven't really like taking walks because like I don't have the.
What's the point?
I think I think you and me are similar. It's like, why would I do that if there's no like end goal?
Yeah, and like I have, like when lockdown was a thing and I literally wasn't leaving the house, I was like, right, you live right next to a park, let's go for a walk. But I'd literally walk around it once and be like, I'm bored.
Yeah, it's boring, especially if you're on your own. Like if like I think if you and me were like to go to a park, we would go with somebody else to like have a conversation when we walk around. It wouldn't be just like, I'm gonna go for a walk in the park on my own. Well, you can listen to a podcast and you can listen to music, but like you can do that at home.
Well, exactly. There are times when like I'll have a smoke outside, like where I'm actually like, I'm not just like out the door or whatever, and I'll be like, I'm outside, it's a lovely day. I'll go straight back in. On course and then job. Oh, that was it. I was explaining my job and then
I mean, it sounds like you work with a few women. I think you said that you worked with quite a few women, didn't you?
Yeah, so on the weekend, it was the original team, OG, was me, Jess, and Rebecca. And then, so the principal was really like, yeah, girl power on the weekend team. Woo, do you get what I mean? And then, so they really, for some reason, liked that, which I both was like, yes, I guess, and this shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
But then Jess left to do a PhD. Rebecca left to get a full-time job. So now there's me, Ekaterina, and Mark is the new supervisor. So yeah, it's still quite female.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like 2 out of 3, which is nice. On the course, it's still very male dominated, as you would expect, but I was surprised at how many females. Oh, sorry, I've been doing a lot of research today.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I was surprised how many girls are actually on the course as well. Like I was expecting like me and maybe 1 and 2 other people, but the thing is, it's hard at the minute because it's a new semester on top of it, like a whole new year of people starting, I guess. So a lot of our classes at the minute, I'm not sure how they're structured or like how they sort this out, but a lot of our classes are combined. So you've got like us interactive people, you've got sound engineering people, you've got sound for moving image people, like kind of all collectively in one. I'd say about 10% is female, but it's still nice to see.
That's pretty high, to be fair.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So we had a lecture and I think there were like 32 people in the one call, and there was about like 5 or 6 girls, like not on camera, just on names that I saw. Which was, I was expecting just me. In undergrad there were only three girls. In college there were only 2 girls, me and another one.
Yeah, on my course is 4 girls. 4? Yeah, 4 girls. Out of like 20 students, which is all right, but it's not.
It's getting better, but it's also like, why?
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to ask, because it's like, and that's kind of why I asked how you got into what you do as well, because there doesn't seem to be many girls doing in it, and it's like, is that a lack of encouragement? Is that the environment?
Well, getting into sound design specifically was a module in college, but getting into music tech was, so all the way like from being little until you kind of stop wanting to be an astronaut or a circus clown. I wanted to be a zoo vet.
Still a clown.
Just don't get paid for it.
I pay for it. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, because I was like, I want to be a vet, but I want to work on like tigers and monkeys and cool things like that. Yeah. So I was like, I took additional sciences, GCSE, I did all this. I was like, going to happen.
Oh, fair play. You were actually wanted to pursue it,
Yeah. And then when I was 15, I bought my first guitar on eBay. I'd played the drums anyway from 10. I had like lessons and stuff and then stopped them in school, but I
Your
bought my
sister
first
plays
guitar.
drums as well, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I didn't know that until...
well.
Yeah, I knew that. But I didn't know she played drums until like quite recently when she filled out that survey.
Oh yeah, she had lessons as well with me.
That's cool. I never knew that. Fair play.
Yeah.
Now Amy's like jack of all trades, isn't she?
Yeah, man.
Making the rest of us look shit.
She's the cool sister. But as you put here, like family is musical. Both sides of the family, mom and dad, are very musical. If it's not singing, it's like playing guitar. My dad plays flute. And like their brothers. So my dad's brother and sister play like sax and guitar. My mum's sisters sing and play guitar. And so I was kind of always like musical and like singing and stuff. And I remember mum asking me when I was very, very, very little if I wanted to learn anything, like an instrument. And I was like, no, why would I want that? But then I got to
rebellious
10. Well, I got to 10 and I don't know who I was listening to. It might have been Evanescence. And the drums for some reason were just like calling to me. And I was like, I really want to play that. So I just stood on the stairs. And
I asked this very kindly. Were you a hyperactive child?
Oh, yeah.
That's why you wanted to play drums, let's be real. Drums are so good for hyperactive kids.
Yes, I wasn't allowed to drink Coke because I would, quote, swing from the curtains.
Oh my God, I wasn't allowed to eat so many sweets when I was a kid.
Yep. We had sweetie days to limit our consumption of sweets.
Yeah.
So it was like a Saturday or something. But yeah, I just kind of stood on the stairs and I was like, Mom, can I learn how to play the drums? And she just kind of looked at me and was like, what, seriously? And I was like, yeah. She's like, I asked you this when I was little. I was like, I know, but now I want to.
I'm not little anymore, Mum.
But my year 6 teacher's daughter actually happened to be a drum teacher. So my mum just mentioned it to my teacher, being like, oh, do you do lessons, blah, blah, blah. She was like, not at the school, but my daughter does this. So yeah, that's how I got into it. So you
learned from a girl as well?
I did.
That's awesome.
I didn't even think about that, But I guess buying my guitar kind of triggered me to, because once I learned guitar and some basic chords, I just started writing my own music then, like my own songs. And like literally from day one, writing songs has now been like, it's how I vent and stuff, which is why I don't perform a lot, because I'm like, this is my thoughts and feelings, like this.
I was like that for so long.
If I've had a really bad day, I don't want people to know that, But and then obviously once I started songwriting, and then I started paying more attention to Mum and what she was doing in her band, and her guitarist was really you put women in your life actually who are role models. Tracy, her stage name is Freya Halvorsen.
Ooh. Very cool.
She's got SoundCloud, YouTube, everything. But watching her play lead guitar and ukulele and sing, she was the lead vocalist. She plays all the kind of lead stuff. But like she'd be playing along, and then she'd just randomly go into like. And I remember just being like sitting there watching it.
You can do that?
Yes. And just watching it. And she'd have these like really big, fancy like jazz guitars and stuff. And I'd say to her, oh, how long have you been playing? And she'd be like, too long. And I'm like, no, but like I need a number. So I know. And she'd been playing for like, I mean, this was back then. She was playing for like 25 odd years. And I was just like, right, okay, you are the goal.
That's crazy as well. Because like when she was younger, that would have been way, 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 way less the norm.
But she's fantastic, and I mean, she's still going. The band, my mum had to leave. She left the band obviously because of the heart attack and whatever. But then the fostering thing happened, so she was like, "Well, I can't make the band.
Can't really split that."
So they've replaced I think they've got a bassist now. I'm not sure what else she plays because my mum played guitar, bass, ukulele, keyboards, tambourine. She'd be backing vocals as well. So
that's insane.
Yeah, my mum's like crazy talented.
Yeah,
she's a massive role model for me.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously. me mum.
Oh,
I love me mum.
I love your mum. She's great.
And she's so encouraging. I mean, both my parents are. They just encourage, I mean, my entire family really, bar, you know, the odd exceptions. They just encourage you to experiment, be weird, be unique, mess up your hair, you know.
Absolutely
We'll look at you funny, but we won't care.
I think that's so great. I feel like you could go either way with a family like that. You could either completely embrace it, like I think like you and Naomi seem to have, or you could go the complete opposite of like, I don't want anything to do with music. I don't want to do anything weird with my hair. I don't want any piercings. Don't want any tattoos.
Yeah. Well, me and Naomi have kind of, I think we are a reflection of what my mum and dad wanted to be, but was so obviously
Societal.
Religious. Well, it's more the religious thing.
Of course, yeah.
Like mum was saying in the 80s and that she was scared of punks and they were told that they were like Satan worshippers and stuff. And like mum was like, oh yeah, the punks used to scare me. And I'm like, why, mum? Like your daughters are basically...
Oh no, my mum's the same. Talking about role models. Have you got any others that you want to mention? Like, they can be people like in your life that you know or have known, or it can be like famous people as well, if you've got any specific artists.
Oh, yes. I mean, if we're going like guitar style, songwriting, etc., I'm very heavily influenced by like Annie DeFranco.
Hands, use both hands. That's the only Annie DeFranco song I know, but I love it.
No. I highly recommend, Joe, I think you'd like it, the I'm Not a Pretty Girl album, the entire album. Just
I'm going to get a post-it note.
Yeah, because a lot of her albums are very, like, I've told Naomi to listen to her, and she's come to me and she's like, Emily, how do you listen to this? And I was like, were you listening to one of her, like, experimental jazzy albums?
She
was
seems
like,
to have some experimental stuff.
Yeah. And she was like, I don't know, Emily, but it was like, yeah. And I was like, no, yeah, don't listen to that.
I feel like, though, she's one of those artists that's been going for so long that you have to expect some of that.
Yes, but she is a lyrical genius.
Literally, that one song I heard, I was like, this is great, and it pops into my head all the time, and I never actually
it's just every single song she writes lyrically is fantastic. Like, you can hate the song, but
I've
read
started
the lyrics.
to really appreciate Janis Joplin, because I didn't used to like gel well with her voice. Annie DeFranco, awesome, excellent choice.
Oh yeah. Spilled Canvas is lyrically and play style wise. I didn't realise, but then I played my mum a song once just in the car, I guess. Yeah. She was like, oh, this sounds like one of yours. And I was like, does it? But then I listened to it and I was like, oh. Not in a bad way.
No, yeah.
You know, where you're just like, oh, I can totally hear it.
Yeah, like, did I accidentally rip that off? I feel like...
Not the song in itself, just the play style, the way it's like plucky and he hits sometimes and he doesn't. I was like, oh.
I feel like it took me a really long time to start recognising a lot of the like specific influences in the songs that I was writing. But I only started thinking about it this year, and then I'm like, oh, you know, I can hear, like, I was definitely listening to this and this at the time, and I can hear that in my song.
Yeah. City and Colour is another big one.
Oh yeah, Dallas Green.
Yeah.
I like him.
I've seen him live.
Have you? Oh my god.
Yes, it was beautiful.
I always wanted to see Alexis on Fire.
I haven't listened to them in years.
Neither have I. I only know that one album.
I don't know. I only know a few songs, I'm pretty sure.
I can't remember many of the songs, but I remember a couple, and he's the clean vocalist, isn't he? I was like, he's got a nice voice.
Yes. Sound design wise, there's that Australian Emily that I can't remember, but she did the BioShock noises.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Did she work on Infinite as well? Because that's the only one I've properly played. I was talking about this the other day.
I'm not sure, because this was years ago, so maybe not.
Yeah. So we talked about your role models and who encouraged you. Family's musical. Is there anybody else you want to add who encouraged you? Teachers or anything? Or I know you said being a 6 teacher got you.
I mean, at the minute, like, my tutor is being very helpful and influential and nice.
That's good. That's useful. The next topic that we were going to talk about.
Yes, there's working festivals.
Yeah. So that was just like, I didn't go into any detail in writing my notes, but I knew what I meant. So basically I was just going to talk about like, because you work quite a few different festivals.
Yeah,
or have. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, some of them is like stuff like Download and Boomtown you do as well, don't you? So I was just wondering, like, just in general, working those festivals, what the sort of gender dynamic is, and do you notice a difference between different festivals as well?
So staffing wise, there is no change. We made clear, I think in the earlier ones, there's a very sexist stance in the staffing. You know, females are inferior. If they're not, you know, if they're able to do their job okay, then that's a bonus on top of them just being female. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
If like the females are only in cash and like office work, the lads are usually managers and stock people, you know, all the heavy lifting stuff. Festival wise, that is a good question, because with the heavier ones like Download, etc., there doesn't seem to be any kind of difference in how people are treated based on gender. If you're talking about like in mosh pits, for example, as a female who does get into mosh pits quite frequently, I have noticed that there are, I mean, it's all subjective. It all depends who's there. But there have been times where I've been pulled out of the pit because they thought I've been pushed in as a joke or by accident, or I didn't want to be there for some reason. I think it happened twice by the same guy at one gig before I said to him, I was like, look, this is my choice. I'm in this. And he was like, oh, are you in this? And then he literally just back in. Oh, okay.
It's one of those things where like the sentiment is quite nice, but at the same time
I'm
it's
like, thank you.
But also there's an assumption being made there, isn't there? Yeah,
I'm not on the floor. I'm smiling.
Yeah,
having a good time. If I was like, oh, then maybe.
At the same time, I appreciate that because I've probably been pushed in.
Yeah,
I mean, Sam does get pushed in.
I was going to say it's a difficult thing for like a man to kind of figure out, isn't it? Of like, is she there because she wants to be, or is she like, does she need help? Yeah, it is nice that he thought, oh, like she might need help, but. Would he have like looked out for that if a guy there's probably guys who don't want to be in the mosh pit who might get pushed in by their mates.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does help that. So I've gone through life not thinking I'm tall, but thinking, you know, I'm average, you know, whatever. But I've come to find out the 5'6" is quite short. So I think if it was a shorter guy being like ping ponged around in a mosh pit, they might.
Yeah, maybe.
I would say something like Download. Everyone's looking after each other.
Yeah.
And like it's more of a community thing. If you're at something like Creamfields, there's definitely sexism there because girls are wearing what they want, and I don't believe that anyone should shame a girl for wearing a bikini and like glittery stuff at a festival. Like you do you, girl, but that isn't an invitation for men to be grabbing women and to be talking about them, to be posting about them on social media. And they're the type of festivals where girls get raped.
Yeah. Well, so, Creamfields is like a different kind of atmosphere, isn't it? Like
it's just people on drugs.
I was gonna say I feel like Creamfields is a lot more people go there to like let's just get wasted the whole weekend, whereas Download,
let's see how far our jaw can go.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Download, I'm sure you get a bit of that, but it's a lot more people are there because
it's more
they love
just
the music,
ales and moshing. Yeah,
exactly. Like I feel like a lot of like rock festivals or rock or like pop punk or whatever, is a lot more people are there because they are fans of the music and the bands that are there. Whereas stuff where it's like a lot more mainstream tends to just go to a festival and get wrecked. Why not?
Yeah, like people go to Download and like people will go to Creamfields every single year because like especially in Liverpool because it's close to Liverpool or they've been there before and it's the same kind of acts, whereas people go to Download for decades because they love it and it's a community and they meet friends for life there and stuff. And it's like the whole way that the whole festival is set up, like even Slipknot have gone into the village where everybody's camping before because it's just such a good environment.
But
I mean, staffing wise, as I say, that's just agency specific. I think it's just these are all Gloucester lads that play rugby and think women should be blonde and look nice.
Yeah, that's very Gloucester.
Yeah.
So yeah, working festival. Yeah, like you said, obviously there's sexism in the actual within the staff and the bar and that. And again, that's not necessarily music specific. So you work like kind of alongside music. It's not necessarily.
Oh yeah, no, it's all bar stuff.
The actual like it could be any event really. It just happens to be that you guys work with music.
It's very fun as well.
That was definitely a good question though, Jo, about what the festivals are.
Yeah, if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, even just going to gigs, you notice the difference and stuff. Like I've been to loads of rap gigs and stuff where...
That was my other question, actually. I was going to say, like, do you notice much like, because obviously we listen to a lot more like rock and alternative and stuff, but like I also like a lot of other genres and like pop and stuff, and I've been to quite a few pop concerts, and obviously there's a massive difference between like how many girls you'll see at a pop concert versus at a rock concert, although I'm into like more of the poppier rock anyway, so
I would say metal is pretty even. Rap ones is different, and I think that
the amount of girls in a mosh pit is practically zero.
That's what I was going to say.
When we're there.
Except for I don't go in pits since I fell and stood on the head.
No, I don't go in pits either, I'm too small.
I think when you get older as well, like I know that I used to listen to like Steel Panther were like my favourite band, and then now if I listen to their songs I'm like, oh, you wouldn't be able to release that now.
I was like that with I used to listen to this the kind of pop punky, a little bit hardcore, The Story So Far.
The what?
There was a band called The Story So Far. Yeah,
that rings a bell.
They're pretty good, but I got to the point where I was just like, they have a few songs where they're just like a little bit slut shamey, and I was like, I can't really enjoy this as much as I want to, because I like the sound but I don't like the words.
Yes,
that's my struggle with rap. I love gangster rap, but it's so misogynistic.
No, I'm the same. That's literally why I think that's probably another reason as well why I like to listen to more female artists, because they might say something like misogynistic, but it's a lot less likely.
Sorry. With metal, I know Naomi in particular, who struggles with anxiety, etc. She's been to gigs where she was telling me about, I can't remember who she went to see, but there was a mosh pit starting next to her, and she wasn't like okay with, being in one.
Yeah.
And there was this really hench burly guy who apparently had been in the mosh pits and like had taken his shirt off and everything. And he just kind of not put his arm around her like that, but like just kind of made a barrier behind her. Yeah. And was like, it's all right, like you'll be okay with me. And like there's been several instances like that where she's been made to feel safe by the males around her, because I think metal as a genre is very like everyone's equal, like we're all like this, we're all outcast in some way or another. Like
definitely.
Yeah, that's happened with me. Like when I fell over at this, why I don't go and hit anymore. Because when we were at Download the first year that we went in 2013, and like we just did what you normally do at a gig, and you just run like straight in the middle. The first festival. And Bullet came on, and immediately everyone started moshing, and I hit the floor and was like, oh, lost Emily. But all the guys around me were like, they all like picked me up, and like everyone stopped. And then they were all like, are you okay? And they were like, this is going to happen here. Do you want to go somewhere else? So I was like, yeah. So then they just lift me up, and I like crowd surfed away from the danger.
I was going to say, there's kind of like that sort of thing with crowd surfing as well. Because obviously that I go to a lot of more like pop punk gigs and metal. And there's still pits sometimes, but you're a lot more likely to see crowd surfers than pits with some of these acts. And there's very much a case of like, even the bands themselves like, do not let that if anybody falls, help them up, and like do like if people are crowd surfing, please help like hold them up if you can. And I think that's very much like, obviously that doesn't really have anything to do with gender, but it's just like the community aspect.
I guess it kind of does in a way though, because if you're at other gigs, like if you're at like a drum and bass gig and people start moshing, there's no rules in a drum and bass gig. People will be punching each other. People will be pushing girls into the pit and everything, which is stupid, because if someone doesn't want to go into a pit, you should not push them in.
Yeah,
because that's
absolutely.
the worst thing. You don't have balance. And then I've also seen like crowd surfing at those kind of things. People are like grabbing them, and it's like,
oh yeah,
that's not okay.
No. So yeah, we were talking about like being into heavy music. So I don't know like how many gigs you go to that aren't as heavy, but like I've got like yeah, like same. I like, you know, that I like a lot of pop as well, so I've been to like quite a few pop gigs.
I've seen the Saturdays.
Have you? What they get?
When one of them was pregnant, I don't know which one, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but they were, because I didn't like them, like their music. Like I'll listen to them and be like, oh, like I'll sing along.
Yeah, it's fun.
They are actually really good at singing when you take away all the processing. Well, obviously mainstream.
That is how I got into Little Mix, actually.
Really? Well, Sam's just said Little Mix are like that.
Really? If you look up like some of their like a cappella stuff, or like they've got some they did a live lounge thing. This is what got me into them. They did a live lounge thing. And
Sam's just gone,
yes, I heard it. And
you did?
they did a mashup of Jay-Z, One Republic, and Nirvana. And it was sick. It was so good. And that's when I was like, these guys are actually like good. Like they haven't just been put together because like they're pretty and they whatever. They're really fucking good, and like they can harmonize. And I think that's quite rare with a lot of like put together pop groups. Like
well, I was so surprised at the Saturdays. I only went because
I'm surprised about the Saturdays even.
Yeah, well, she was like, I have these tickets, do you want to go? And I was like, well, yeah, it's a free gig, isn't it? And I was just kind of expecting not to be, you know, entertained, but just be like, yeah, you know.
But like pop gigs are really fun.
Yeah, I've seen Lady Gaga, which was
amazing.
Fantastic. It was on the
the
Monster Ball tour. Monster Ball tour.
I wanted to go to that so badly when I was younger.
So everybody's like, oh my god. I only went because Laura's mum bought tickets, and she was like, oh yeah, my mum bought us tickets, and I was like, are you being serious? Because they were like 80 odd quid.
Yeah, they're expensive. I really wanted to go. I know how expensive they were.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no.
I was like, yes. And she did a song that I knew really well, because I was obsessed with Lady Gaga at the time. Like I downloaded all her B-sides, or all her like outtakes, her unreleased stuff.
Yes.
So I mean, I understand why she completely dropped the persona, because she was like, I'm done trying to impress everybody. Like, this is the music I want to make.
Well, it made sense to do it in the first place, to kind of get that attention.
Oh yeah, totally. But like she did it the exact right way, but I do miss the crazy.
But I think too many people didn't realise that it was just like for the entertainment purposes, that she wasn't really like that weird.
No, well, my mum was obviously being obsessed with Lady Gaga and living at home. My parents were just subject to my obsession, and my mum was like, she's just a carbon copy of Madonna, like and you know, like when she's talking and her things, I'd never listened to Madonna beyond what my mum had shown me, and like we are living in a material world.
Madonna's got some real bangers, actually, to be fair.
No, yeah, she is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discrediting Madonna whatsoever. But I didn't understand how much she did actually take from Madonna at the time. I was like, Mom, you're just old. You don't understand.
To be fair, I think that's definitely a case of like influence and inspiration, rather than like, I'm going to rip off, like, you can't rip off Madonna.
Well, exactly, but my mum was convinced that she was ripping off Madonna.
Yeah.
And then there was one performance where she was dressed like Madonna, etc. And she was like, look, she's not even hiding it anymore. And I was like, no, Mum, this is on purpose. Like, she's playing homage to Madonna. Obviously. But I love her. I still love her. I'm not as obsessed with her because she's lost the weird, and that's what enticed me.
But I like that now she can
She did that film.
That she doesn't have to.
I haven't seen it still.
It's good. I do like now that she can just be like, I want to do a jazz album, and I'm going to do it, because I always really liked her like piano version.
Oh,
like
that feature she did with he was jazz, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, I know him. She did a jazz album with somebody, Tony
Bennett.
That's
Tony
it.
Bennett?
Yeah, she did an album with him, right?
I think so, or at least a few songs.
Because that's when I was like, because I always used to like watch her piano performances of stuff like Poker Face and something else. And I was
Paparazzi.
like, yeah, and I was like, why doesn't she do more of this? This is amazing.
I
Just
learned that on piano.
And then she started doing that more as the years went on, and she could just do that. And people were like, this is amazing, Gaga, and just her on a piano. And that's
she
why
sets
like
the piano on fire.
Exactly. Yeah. But like that's why I like now that she doesn't have to do the persona, because like there is now focus on the fact like it can just be her on a piano and she's amazing.
I mean, she's always been talented. Like even watching her live, as obsessed with her as I was, she was note perfect.
Yeah.
And she was thrashing around in a fountain of blood and like.
Well, while I think of it now, actually, I was thinking about how like pop is very like most of the big hitters in pop are women, and it's like I was having this discussion with somebody else, how like even though you've got like Beyonce and Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift and Little Mix, who are like the big name, and Ariana, like all these big names in pop, but they're still like. They are still like, even if they have all this success, they've proven themselves, got all this money, but they are still like treated less than. It's like, oh, but she's pop, and it's like, so what if she's pop? Like, she's good. She's good at what she does. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean like that's not good to people. Who like that. And it's like,
have you seen all those videos of like people asking Ariana Grande if
you
could only choose
sexist questions,
which would you pick?
Yeah, and she's like
really what you think, well.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I've seen a clip of that.
And I absolutely love that. I love how done all of these female artists are with that shit.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get at is that like there's more diversity in pop, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, like women are treated better or seen as but like they've got more, there's more female fans in pop, so they've got that kind of driving force. No, I think it's really important. I think that's another good thing about like why there needs to be like more of a gender balance, because like if you're the only woman somewhere, it can be really intimidating, but even just having one other woman can really help like bolster your confidence.
Yeah. Well, I've just thought of there was one time at work, Rebecca radioed through and was like, Emily, can you just come to the desk a second? And I was like, I was off doing a room, so I was like, oh my goodness, what have I done? But it was just a female student needed a pad, and Rebecca was just asking, obviously she didn't want to like radio through, do you have a pad? She was just asking if I had one, and I was like, yeah. But you've just made me think now, the week staff are usually all male. So hopefully they have like female tutors they can ask in those situations. Usually the college is really good at stocking up, obviously not now because of COVID and everything.
Yeah.
But in the female bathrooms, they usually have a basket of like loose tampons or pads or whatever.
That's
and
good
they must have obviously run out when I got radioed through. But yeah, that must be, I imagine they'll have people through the week, I guess, with them to ask rather than asking members of staff.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully.
I think that's another thing as well, like.
And I had one, which was nice. I was like,
yes, you could help. Such like it's one of those things where it's just like everybody's been there.
Yeah, men will never understand.
That's what I was going to say.
The
like
camaraderie between the receiver and the giver. The bitches.
Yeah, they would never understand that.
No. The holy bond. Once somebody has given you a pad or a tampon, they are your best friend.
They're your friend, yeah. I was making.
Like if I see you in the hallways tomorrow, well, I'm gonna smile and say hi.
Oh, thank you. You're safe. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I think
there was that.
That's the sort of thing that men need to be educated about. Like, and they're like, yeah, like I think it's important just to normalize like I saw a picture of she was like hugging her son, and she was like, yeah, those are tampons in my hand. Like, one, you've got to normalize that if you're raising a little boy, but also like, yeah, we were also doing another, like a shoot for a sponsor thing or whatever. But it's that like, I think it benefits boys just as much to be educated about that, especially like if if they're heterosexual, because you're going to be in a relationship with a woman at some point, and
Well,
to have that thought and that consciousness about that, and just to be educated about it and not be weird about it, is always going to benefit the relationship.
Well, we're at the age now where fellas have typically had a long-term relationship with a female, and they understand, they need these every now and again. When I was a teenager going out with friggin' Steve, he was
sorry, that was such a weird concept to me.
I had a boyfriend. He was way more feminine than I was. He used to steal my makeup and had longer hair than me, so it was okay.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Because his mum was a single mum, like raising him and his brother and stuff. Because it was just him and his mum, he was very kind of like he bought me pads once because I needed them, kind of thing, and like it didn't bother him. Whereas like I know I had other boyfriends and they would get creeped out by it. I had more than one. That's back in the day.
That's
weird,
blowing my mind.
Right?
I was saying, me and Ames were having a similar conversation last night, actually. I think we were just talking about a TV show, but we were talking about like a male character, and it's like, he's a sweetheart. And then we were talking about like one of the plot points is to do with his mum. And we were like, you can tell he was raised by like his mum because he's a sweetheart. And like, we were like, not to like stereotype, because obviously a man being brought up by like a man and a woman, or just a man or two men or anything like that, doesn't for sure like influence if they're going to be nice or not. But from our experience, we have noticed that like men who have been raised by like single mums or whatever do tend to be a bit more conscientious.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, guys who have been raised by good single mothers tend to have just the innate respect for women and the understanding of their perceived weakness, I guess, because they've grown up obviously just around their mum, and everything is kind of normalized, but they also
it eliminates those kind of gender roles, doesn't it? Because
exactly.
So like sometimes, obviously there are like working mums who are married to men and are bringing up kids, but sometimes it will be a case of like the mum is like stay at home, does the cooking and the cleaning, and that stuff doesn't get appreciated when like dad is out working and bringing home money. And so like especially teenage boys might not like appreciate the fact that the things that their mum is doing are very important and like are keeping everything going. But if you're growing up with a mum who's doing both or everything, you kind of see that duality and you see the multi-layers to like your mum isn't just your mum, she's also like whatever her job is, that's part of her identity. Yeah, exactly. I think that is like, obviously it's not an ideal situation for anybody growing up because it makes it more difficult, there's less support there, but it can like give that perspective to people, and I think that can be really, really valuable, especially to boys.
Yeah, I've always said, like, if I had a son that, you know, committed some crime against a woman, you know, you'd be heartbroken and devastated, but I'd just be immeasurably angry. Like, how dare you disrespect not only me but women in general? Like, I did not raise you like this. Well,
we've kind of we've touched on this one a little bit, so we might not even need to go into anything, but it's just if you think of anything to add. But obviously we know there's like, or we've discussed like difference in gender in different genres, and kind of it's a question of like, why do we think that? Like, why is pop a more female associated genre in terms of fans compared to rock and stuff like that? Like, does it come down to,
in pop, if you're a male artist, you're usually singing about females.
Yeah.
And if you're a female artist, you're usually singing about being wanted by males or being in love with one or things like that. So I guess.
Although, like, I do notice now there's a lot more like, of course. But like that's why I really like, another reason I really like pop like at the moment as well is that a lot more artists are just like being more outspoken about like equality and being feminist. And also I feel like a lot more pop artists now are more involved in actually writing the songs. Like, yeah, because like ones that we listened to when we were younger, like Britney and stuff, and like Christina, I think a lot of the time they were given a track to sing. I don't know how much input they would get in that. But then like I think especially like obviously like Lady Gaga writes her own music, Sia writes her own music, like Little Mix, I don't know how much they write, but they are involved in the writing process. And like that's quite rare for a pop female vocal group to actually be involved in writing the songs. And that's just like, I feel like that's like pop has grown in that way of the female agency, especially. I know like the male artists and male groups were also given songs to sing, but I think it was a lot more common for like, say like Robbie Williams to be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm a solo artist now, I write these songs, or I write some of these songs. But you know, it's a lot more rare for like, I guess, agency for the women to be like, oh no, like if we're going to sing about sexualizing ourselves, we're going to write that, like we're going to be the ones writing it. But I know like definitely with Little Mix, like they've spoken up about that sort of thing. That's why they left like Simon Cowell's management, because they wanted more creative freedom. And I think there's a lot more of that going on with women in pop now. But I think there's still like a lot of the general public who like maybe don't follow us closely or aren't as interested in what goes on behind the scenes of music, don't necessarily realize that and think it's still a case of like you get handed a song by a producer and you just sing it, like just sit down, shut up and sing. And it's like, but they wrote these songs or like they at least had a hand in writing these songs. And I think that was one of like probably one of the reasons why people didn't take pop as seriously, was because these artists were mouthpieces in a way. Whereas now, like if you know that a lot more of the pop artists are writing it too. And I think that kind of
that's true,
gives a bit more legitimacy to some of the artists for some people.
Is that why you like Taylor Swift so much?
Yeah. Because, I mean, like, to be fair, like her first 2 albums she had co-writers, but she was always involved in writing the songs. But then, like, by her 3rd album, she, like, wrote her entire 3rd album by herself, and it was amazing. Yeah. And I think that helps, like, obviously she came from, like, country roots and stuff, so a lot of that, you write stuff anyway. But I think, like, I don't want to sound like I'm giving her, like, so much credit, but I do think that she had a big hand in, like, a lot more artists and people like Lady Gaga and stuff as well had a lot of hand in a lot more artists in pop being more involved in the writing process, because like she was one of the early ones who was like, yeah, I wrote all of these songs. But yeah, and also like differences between like subgenres or bands that have women in them in terms of like gender balance with the audience. So I spoke about this when I did a conversation with I think Ames and Shah. We were talking about like, I was talking about personally like at Slam Dunk, say, I would notice more of a difference between like at the heavier stage, I notice more men watching than like the main stage where it's like the slightly more pop punk bands. And I'm like, that's again, it comes back to like, is it a case of women don't like heavier music, which we know isn't true, but like, is that a case of like they're told not to like heavier music just in their general like upbringing? Is it like girls are meant to like more delicate things and prettier things, and boys can like heavy things and dirty things? Is it like a little bit of like, you know, gender programming there?
I guess maybe.
Or is it like feels like an unwelcome environment? I don't know. Like,
I would say it might be more geared towards the like unwelcome environment, in the sense that is it Girls to the Front is a book on like riot girl experiences and stuff, and it's just a lot of the kind of atmosphere of heavier gigs is take your shirt off, sweat, bash into people, guys.
Yeah, very blokey.
Yeah. And
I think that's why like Riot Girl came from the fact that the hardcore scene was a bit too much of a boys club, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so there was like Riot Girl and queercore kind of came off of that, of being like, we don't feel like we're welcome in these environments, so we're just going to make our own.
We're sick of feeling like coat holders.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it might be a kind of intimidation thing, a sweat thing, like girls don't like to sweat loads.
Yeah.
Boys with long gross hair seem to do.
And they're allowed to. I think that's also the difference, isn't it? Like, it might not even be that like girls don't want to sweat, but they're like, oh, you know, I can't be seen to perspire in public. I'm a woman.
Yeah,
even if I want to. Yeah. I think that is part of it. Like, we are.
Have you inhaled in the last 5 minutes?
I do think that like that does play a role of like girls are brought up to like. Have you ever seen? I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's like an advert about women in STEM, and it's just showing like the little things that kind of make women sort of start to not necessarily lose interest, but like not want to associate themselves with those sorts of things. It's just like the small things of like, oh, don't get your pretty dress dirty, even if it's just like, you know, I want to look at these rocks. I want to be a geologist, like shit like that. Do you know what I mean?
I want to be a geologist.
Maybe I want to be a geologist. But I think it's just very small, like social things that are programmed into us based on our gender that can have that sort of impact. Because like, I think maybe I don't know, maybe the same for you, but like I was never like discouraged from like playing in the dirt and playing with the boys and I want to play football, and like I wasn't discouraged from that as a kid. But you know, there are probably plenty of girls who are discouraged from that, and so they kind of get to a point of like, oh, I'm not allowed to get dirty, I'm not allowed to get messy, I'm not allowed to be loud.
Yeah, I mean, my parents from very early on realised they weren't dealing with a kind of gender-conforming child.
Yeah.
Like, I was 2 years old and crying about dresses and wanting to play with sticks and stuff. So I was it was never like, no, this is how you should be. It was just like, look, she likes sticks.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of lucky in the sense that my parents were never like, why are you like this?
Yeah, I think
just kind of let it happen.
Yeah, I think I was in a similar situation when my mum kind of realised she was fighting a losing battle with trying to make me wear dresses or anything from quite a young age. Oh, my mum had also had a few kids by the time she had me, so
like,
experience. Well, yeah, like she had 3 boys and a girl. It's like, okay, and she was like, maybe this one will be girly. No, sorry, Mum.
Not sorry.
I'm not sorry at all. Okay, moving on from that. Have you ever been made to doubt your abilities or your place in a music environment because of your gender?
Yes.
Yeah?
I mean, there's been several times when I've gone in to either play with the band or like engineer, and someone has assumed that I'm just with someone, or once they've realised I am behind the desk, they're like, oh, okay. And it's like, okay, now I have to prove that not only am I capable, but I know more than these guys. Because you kind of...
Yeah, you have to go above and beyond, don't you?
Yes, exactly, because it's not enough to be like, yes, I know how to EQ. Yes, I know what the fader does. It'd be like, did you know that EQing in this room at 20 decibels is enough? And it's like,
yeah.
Nobody needs to know that until you're in a room full of males.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and you can tell as well when people are just chatting up their arse to just talk at you and confuse you, and you're like, what are you doing that for? Oh, well, I read in Sound on Sound that if you do this to the feedback loop, and blah, blah, blah. No, you're just chatting to intimidate me, and you're chatting nonsense.
When they give a long-winded version of what you just said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, did you mean?
Yeah,
that's exactly what I said, but in more concise.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes as well, it's like you can know all the theory you want, but if you can't put it into practice, what good is it? So like you can chat all this stuff of like, oh, we do this because of this and we do this because of this, blah blah blah. But if you can't put that into the physical of actually doing it. Why are you chatting about it? Like, who cares? You're not writing an essay. It's all well and good if somebody asks.
Well, exactly.
But
in sound design, there doesn't seem to be that much of a, oh, you're a girl. But in live sound, 100%, it very much is, oh, you're a girl.
Yeah. To be fair, like, I can think of one time I've seen a woman at sound desk, and it was a gig that I played. Like, I'm including shows that I've been to as an audience member, because I don't look at the sound tech every single time I walk in, but like I tend to like kind of hang back in crowds a lot more, especially like recent years, just so I can see, because I'm short. So if I'm fully in the crowd, I can't always see. If I stand at the back, like towards the sound desk, and the sound desk is where you get the best sound too. So I will like take note. I'll like glance at the sound tech, and it's almost always a man. Like 98% of the time, it's a man. And I don't think I've ever seen one apart from that one gig that we played, because I feel like I would have remembered if I'd seen one that was a woman, because it's so rare. And like
at Adlib, there were 2 resident female sound engineers, I think. So yeah, like gender at Adlib was very like divided. The casuals, I was like the only girl, to be honest, but like engineers and stuff, yeah, I was quite surprised at that, because I was expecting like everyone there to be male. And I mean, to be like, warehouse is mostly male, office is mostly female, as you would expect, but it's not as big as a gap as you would expect.
Yeah, well, I think obviously like there's been a lot more awareness about it, and attitudes have changed with a lot of people. So I think it's like getting better slowly, but there's still such a massive disparity. But obviously numbers have increased in the last 10 years even.
Yeah.
Obviously I don't think it has to be a case of like you have to stick with your gender, blah blah blah, but I do think especially like female inclusive bands would really benefit from female sound techs.
Yeah, definitely.
Just on a comfort level, because I know like when we had that female sound tech, I felt so much more comfortable talking to her and like asking for changes or anything like that. And she was she asked a lot more questions about like, is that okay? Like, let me know if you want me to change anything, blah, blah, blah. Whereas a lot of the time, especially if it's an older guy, I feel like with a male sound tech, I just kind of take what they give me.
Yeah, they're just like, no, well, this is what I think you should need, so
yeah. Whatever. And sometimes that's fine. Like sometimes I'm just like, I trust your judgment. But like you might be like, oh, I need a lot more reverb or whatever, like, and you might not feel comfortable being like, can you give me more reverb?
Yeah.
You might be like, you don't need more reverb. I'm like, you don't know what I need, bitch.
You don't know me, give me more verb.
I was just going to ask your opinion on the importance of like shows or festivals or blogs whose main sort of goal is to showcase female and LGBT talent. Do you think they're good? Do you think they hinder?
No, they're good. I think representation is important, because especially like, talking about religious families, etc.
Yes.
There was no representation other than it is wrong and negative and like not godlike.
Yeah.
So I think thank you. I think representation is important. However, I think it needs to be done where it's not highlighted that it's a difference. So like, like TV shows, and they bring on like a lesbian couple, and it's like,
look at that
lesbian couple, and like they're holding hands all the time, and they're kissing, and they're like all over each other in every scene, and it's like,
where are these shows? I need to find them.
Not like all over each other, but I mean like arms round and stuff like that.
Well, it's when that like they don't flesh that out, and it's just like, look at them, they're gone now.
Well, yeah, exactly. Here's our token gays. But if you had like a family where like it showed typical family issues,
Mm.
and there wasn't a highlight on, maybe, you know, highlight the kid being, you know, picked on for having two mums or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, don't be
Well, that makes me think
look
of
at our gay family.
Did you ever watch Modern Family at all? But
The two guys, right? I've seen
two guys, yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So they didn't kiss until season 2 for some reason. I know it came out quite a long time ago, but like if they're gonna be two main characters and they're meant to be a couple and getting married and stuff, feels a little bit like we might piss off the audience if they kiss. If you're gonna include them, fucking go, like, do it.
Are they gay actors?
I think one of them is, and I think the other one isn't.
Okay. Lisa got one.
Yeah. I'm not like super. I do think that, especially trans roles should go to trans actors.
Oh, I don't understand why they're not.
No, I agree.
Like, if I was an actress and it was like, oh yeah, you're playing like a trans male, I'd be like, well, I'm not trans.
Well, exactly. It's like,
I can't relate to
characters playing characters of colour. Like,
exactly.
You've got plenty of actors who aren't getting those opportunities, so give them those opportunities.
Exactly.
Like, I don't feel.
Pose is the best.
Pose. Have you watched Pose?
Yes, I love Pose. I'm only on episode 2. Well, episode 3 now. I love Pose. I need to keep watching. I'm only on season 1. I only started it very recently.
Watching, girl.
I know. The problem is I like to watch Netflix while I'm working, but I'm doing a lot of work at the moment that I need to be able to hear what I'm doing, so I can't really watch stuff at the same time. But I really enjoy what I've seen so far. But yeah, I feel strongly about that, but I don't feel as strongly of like the actor has to be gay if they're going to play a gay role, because you don't know if they are or not. Did you watch The Miseducation of Cameron Post? It's got Chloe Moretz in it. The film is about like a gay conversion therapy camp, and I remember when she was like doing interviews for it, a lot of people were like, well, I say a lot of people, I only saw one interview where it happened, but like the guy was like asking her about her opinion on like straight actors playing gay. And she was like, well, you can't assume that. Like, you don't know. And obviously at the time, like,
that they're straight.
Yeah, exactly. Like at the time she was assumedly straight. And then a couple months later, she's like dating a woman. It's like, yeah, you can't make assumptions, because obviously like she was speaking from experience, clearly.
Lol.
Because especially as a Hollywood actor, like I don't want to say it's not safe. Like, they're not going to be like necessarily in danger, but it can hurt their career to come out. So
it's like Ellen DeGeneres came out on her TV show, not her talk show, but her
sitcom, yeah. And then it was cancelled like the season after, and she wasn't allowed to be too gay because think of the audience. And like that was the 90s, but it's still there. Like, it's a lot better than it was, but there is still that, especially in like less so in TV, but a lot more in like film. Like, how many characters do you see in films that aren't gay films that are gay characters? Exactly. As main characters as well, rather than like the best friend or whatever.
Oh, gay best friend, huh?
Yeah.
I'll dress you up, girl.
No, exactly.
Yeah, representation is important, but I think it needs to be handled carefully.
Yeah, I think especially if like the people who are trying to do the representation aren't part of the group they're representing, it can be quite problematic, because even if your intentions are good, you don't necessarily know all of the nuances and all of the history.
Yeah. If I was an actress given a role that I had no history with, I'd actively go and try and seek out these groups.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was another thing, like in the interview where she said that, she met with people who had been through conversion therapy and stuff, so that she knew, even if like, because regardless of her sexuality, she hasn't been through conversion therapy. You have to, you do your research, especially when it's like sensitive topics like that.
Oh yeah.
And I think that applies to music too, of like, I think it's, well, for me personally, like, I think that's why I like tend to be drawn to like female inclusive or female fronted stuff. especially in pop punk, because like a lot of the time you're just getting the white male perspective, the straight white male perspective. But then like,
which is why it bothers me when he is like, oh yeah, like it's really rare to find like male singers. I have an affinity for like male singers compared to because all females can sing, and I'm like, do you have any idea how male dominated this industry is?
yeah,
She has no idea.
No. And like that's why like it's one of those things where it's like I don't want to fall into the trap of like I'm only listening to this because it's female fronted, because I don't just there are bands that like are female fronted that I like, but I'm not like I'm going to listen to them all the time. And then the ones I absolutely love, and I'm like they're my favorite band. And there is an aspect of like you can relate a little bit more with the female from it being from a female perspective or whatever, but half the time it's just like I enjoy what they're making.
Yeah.
And you know there may be some sort of affinity there, but I listen to a hell of a lot of men singing about stuff that I can't necessarily relate, well, maybe relate to more than like heterosexual women, but that's not the point. But you know what I mean. Exactly. And like I think, yeah, and that's why like I do seek out like, I don't know if I've sent you my pop punk pride playlist. It's good. But that's why I seek out like I will, it's fun. But like I seek out LGBT artists and stuff like that, and rock bands that aren't all white dudes, you know? Like I seek that out as well, because it's just such like a underrepresented group, and they've got something different to say as well. They have different experiences. You're gonna get something new from it, even if it's like not necessarily even in the music. It could just be like interviews or just them talking about their own experiences. But then some bands do sing about that. Like, do you know Let Live or Fever 333? I don't know if it's 333 or 333. I don't know how it's said. But that guy's also
Blink-182, not
yeah, I don't know. I still don't know if it's Blink-182 or Blink-182 or what.
It's Blink-182, and I was saying Sum 41. So I've said Sum 41 for years, and apparently it's Sum 41.
Yeah, I knew that, or like I assumed that anyway. But yeah, they're a band that the lead singer is biracial, and he very much sings about his experience, you know, being a black man and being a black man in alternative music, which is very white.
That's interesting.
And yeah, like they've got a bit of a Rage Against the Machine vibe. I think you might like them. They're good. They're on the heavier side, not super heavy, but then they've also got like elements of like there's a little bit of like rap in there and a little bit of hip hop.
Oh, nice.
Which is cool. They're very good. But yeah, it's stuff like that where just like a perspective that, you know, I'm never going to experience life the way he does. And I'm never going to experience life as a straight white man. Like, that's not something I'm ever going to get. So it's nice to like find the perspectives that you can gel with like properly on like because there is just like there's something inherent about like having the experience and knowing somebody's got a similar experience to you, to know that they probably understand, like if you're relating to something, you are relating to it probably on the way that it was intended, rather than sometimes like if it's written by somebody who lives quite a different life than you might not know if you're interpreting it the same way, but like you might just interpret it and apply it to your own experiences. Again, representation, especially for just anyone who isn't a straight white man in rock. Literally, especially
like obviously being a little gay without like accepting that I was a little gay, I'd watch stuff like Lip Service and like Sugar Rush and stuff.
I remember when that was all we had.
Yeah, that was all we had. So I watched the TV program first on the sly, bought the book, and then my mum found the book and sat me down and was like, "This is about lesbians, you know." And I was like, "Oh no, it's just like it's."
I know, I read
it. And she was like, "Well, don't be getting any ideas."
Don't be getting any ideas. You got so many ideas.
Pass the gay away. Sam was like, "Did you give me that or did I give you that?" And I was like, "No, I bought it online. I gave you that." She's like, "Pass the gay away."
Spreading the agenda.
The Sugar Rush initially is like really innocent, and this girl is just hanging out with another girl, and she's like, "Why am I noticing how pretty she is? Why am I noticing the way she walks, etc., etc.?" And it was like, these are my thoughts.
Yeah.
thank you. But then obviously you get to like the raunchy stuff and you're like,
I'm not sure I'm ready for
My
this.
mother doesn't
come in.
I mean, that's all the questions, unless you've got anything else.
No, but I am very proud of what you are
Trash.
doing. You are a beautiful, inspiring woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shucks. Thanks.
Shucks. Oh, I appreciate it. And I
You're
appreciate you
welcome.
asking me to be part of this as well.
Yeah, thank you for being part of it.